What's going on? You're here with Jono and back for another quick math lesson. So today we're going to be talking about how to simplify ratios. So what we want is a ratio with the smallest possible units without a decimal or a fraction. So it's very similar to how we simplify fractions. Okay, so it's really important that you know your common factors between whole numbers because that's going to be really important. I do have a video on that and it's linked in the description below. So if we've got 20 to 6, it doesn't matter which side the big number's on, okay? We just have to make a common factor and divide it on both sides. So for this one, I know that 2 is a common factor. Remember that anytime we've got two even numbers, if you're not sure if there's a higher common factor, you can divide by 2 and work from there. So in this example, I know that 10 and 6 have the highest common factor is 2. So I divide this side by 2 and divide this side by 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And that is my simplified ratio. And that's all you've got to do. So in this second example, 14 to 21, the highest common factor between these two numbers is 7. So I've got to divide this side by 7 and divide this side by 7. That leaves us to a ratio of 2 to 3. And that's done. So even if we've got something like this where we've got three numbers that are all in a specific ratio to each other, all you've got to do is find the common factor between three numbers, which is obviously a little bit harder, but it's not too difficult. So between 16, 8 and 32, the highest common factor between these three is 8. So all I've got to do is divide each part of the ratio by 8 and simplify. So that's 2 to 1 to 4. Even though 2 and 4 still have some way to become broken down even further, you can't worry about that, okay? Once there is one thing, so in this example it's that 1, once there is one of these numbers that doesn't have a common factor with the other two, that's when we say that it's simple, okay? So sometimes we will make these questions a little bit harder by putting a decimal or a fraction in there. The process is exactly the same, but there's a couple of little tips and tricks to make it go a little bit easier. So in this example, we've got 0.2 to 4, and we want to simplify it so with a whole number. The first way that we can do this is we can know that 0.2 multiplied by 5 equals a whole number in 1. So if I've got 0.2 to 4, if I multiply by 5 on both sides, that's going to leave me with 1 to 20. And that is my final answer. So that's in its full form. But it is a little bit difficult sometimes to know what to multiply a decimal to give it a whole number. A really easy trick is that you can always use 10. So for example, in this one again, if I was to do it another time, if I've got 0.2 to 4, if I multiply this by 10, all I'm doing is moving that decimal place once. But that means I've got to do it to both sides, so I'm left with 2 to 40, and then I just have to simplify, which goes down to 1 to 20. This one does take an extra step, but it takes a little bit of that mathematical computation in your head out of the question. We're going to do this one with two methods as well. So 7 to 0.6, I could multiply both of these by 10 to give me a whole number, which gives me 70 to 6, which I can then simplify to 35 to 3, and that's my final answer. Or I could do it as in 0.6 multiplied by 5 will give me a full number. So this gives me 35 to 3 straight away. The way that you can know if a decimal multiplied by a number is going to give a whole number is in the times tables when you're doing them. If the digit or the answer of a times table ends with a 0, you can use that one there. Okay. If we are using a fraction like over here, we've got 2 over 5 to 4. All we have to do is multiply both sides by the denominator, okay? So in this one, if I multiply both sides by 5, so if I multiply this by 5 and this by 5, because on this side it's divided by 5 and then I've times it by 5, they cancel out. So I'm just left with the numerator, and then 4 times 5 is equal to 20. And then I've got to solve that, simplify that to 1 over 10. If I've got fractions on both sides, I do the exact same thing, but I cross multiply. So what that means is that I times this number up here by 7, and I times this number up here by 2, and that's going to give me the answer. So 3 by 2 is equal to 6, and 7 times 1 is equal to 7. So that cross multiplication makes that a lot easier. Thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you later. I hope you guys found that helpful. Just a reminder that there are some free worksheets attached in the description below relating to this very topic. I also put up a PDF of the notes so you don't have to copy them from the video. If you do need any additional help, please don't be scared to send me an email. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel for some more quick math.